Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Behind the Group podcast. I am DJ Keo.
And I am Basil Barrington, and we are back with another movie review. This
Mhm.
week, we checked out All Quiet on the Western Front. And dude,
This movie
I
was
know
fire.
this movie was
Straight up, it
crazy,
was
right?
fire.
I know that it was a 2.5 hour movie, and you know how I feel
hmm
about long movies, but I love war
hmm
movies. I'm like a war buff, I'm like a
Yeah,
war
same,
history buff, and I was like,
same.
I got to check this out. And man, let's see
Yeah,
what IMDb gave this joint here. Let's see here. IMDb gave this film an 8.0.
that is
Um,
accurate. That is very accurate.
if not higher, but yeah, it's pretty
Yeah, I should
accurate,
have.
man.
I would have given it higher, but
Yeah.
that's fairly close. I was reading some of the reviews before we started the pod, and everybody is like, "Holy crap, man! This movie's phenomenal."
There
The cinematography was strong, but like
oh, forget
the
about it.
emotional, the emotional aspect of the movie is just insane. And you know what? This is, I think, one of the first or few movies to do a movie, a storytelling of something from Germany's perspective,
Right.
because this is a war that they didn't do that too well in. And it kind of led way to everything that happened in WW2. It's
Yep.
because of this war. They're like,
Mhm.
oh, word? All right, we're gonna get better tanks, we're gonna get better planes, we're gonna do. They revamped their entire army because of this war. And yeah,
That
I,
is
I
so
think that
true.
it's super important when you have history to tell all the sides, because this stuff was not cut and dry, especially how this war got started. Like everyone says, the Franz Ferdinand thing, that makes no sense to me. They
Why?
shoot an ambassador, all of a sudden there's World War II or World War One. That
You
makes
know,
no sense to me. That official story is trash.
I was you know, during the First World War, and
Mm-hmm.
when, there was a peace treaty, the armistice,
Mm-hmm.
um, Germany had to like pay everyone back: France, England, the United States, everyone.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
the country
They
was
took a
broke.
L. They
The
took a
country
L
was
upon
broke for
L.
like 20 years until like Hitler came into power and said, "Screw all this. We're doing our own thing. We're rebuilding our
Mm-hmm.
army. We don't care." And hence
Yeah.
you have the Second World War. But this war
Mm-hmm.
killed like 17, 20 million people. Dude, it was brutal. I mean, forget about
Yeah,
it. It was crazy.
it's one of the most brutal wars in American history, or in
It's a,
history, not even America history. Period. This
yeah.
one, because they had, so it's the first war they had. We're talking about offline, but they had tanks, they had airplanes, flamethrowers, machine
Flamethrowers, all
guns.
this stuff was new, in terms of
They
like
had
military strategy.
yeah, they had acid. They were
Acid,
doing
wow.
chemical weapons. They're doing everything.
They
Like
had acid, wow.
brutal. You know what? The other thing that was interesting to me is that it told their perspective of kids in school, and everyone's excited, like we're gonna go to war, we're gonna help our country, like they do the rah rah speech. And it's all the old guys. They're like, you get out there, go save the country. Those guys are chilling at home. There's Wiener Schnitzel or whatever, man.
Yeah, you know what? That's how it goes, man. You have these
Yeah, that's
generals
how
and
it
just
goes.
like these young people who are like conscripts,
Mhm.
and they're just like, hey, you go out there, you're
Yeah,
17, 18, 19 years old, 20 years old. You don't
yeah,
want to
sell
go
you
to
the
college or
dream.
anything like that, right? You go into the army and you're put on the front
hmm
line, and then you have to deal with all this. Um,
hmm
it's kind of the same way like when the American vets came back from Vietnam, and it was just like,
Yeah, same
it
thing.
was the
Like,
same
get out
thing. It's just
there.
like the only difference was when
hmm
the vets came back after the First World War, the entire
hmm
world went into a depression, right? And so
Yeah.
that like just sped everything up. It's just like I'm like, wow. But what's
hmm
interesting about this? The writer, this is a book, right? This is a book that
Yeah.
was released in 1929, right?
hmm
The book was released in 1929. Hollywood picked up the book and made a movie about it in
hmm
1930, and the movie won Best Picture.
hmm Yeah, because it's kind of like a retelling, but not exactly
Right. Hmm.
a remaking of the thing. It's kind of in line but different. But yeah, it's
Right.
kind of interesting how this thing got started. Yeah.
And then in 1979, a television
hmm
show was made about it, same name. The
hmm
movie was the same name. The television show was the same name.
hmm
Now, almost 100 years later, Germany finally said, we are going to tell our side of the story, or we're going to tell this story in German, like from a
Yeah.
German perspective. And that's why you have this movie. I think this movie, man, was like, dude. I mean, I was floored with this movie, man.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you
Absolutely,
see the movie 1917? I
I
think it's
did.
Sam
That was
Mendes predicted.
crazy. Hmm.
Listen, I think they need to spend more time talking about World War One. Like,
Yeah.
we need more information about what happened down there because, like, all this stuff is everybody's focused on WW2, and rightfully so because it's a lot of interesting stories, whatever.
Hmm.
But holy crap, man, the stuff these guys endured and the stories
Come
they
on.
had to tell is just it's a missing gem right here for as far as war goes. I don't know a lot of World War One movies, to be honest.
No, 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 there isn't. Other than like the 1917. Everything is based on the
Yeah,
Second World War or the Civil War or like the
yeah.
Vietnam
There's
War or
everything
something
else
like that.
except this one.
Right.
They don't really
Yeah.
want to go into detail about this one.
Right. But interestingly enough, like I said, the book was released in 1929 by Eric
Mm-hmm.
Marie Remark, or I guess I'm pronouncing that right.
Mm-hmm.
He was a soldier who fought in the First World War, and he was like, I'm going to tell my account. I'm going to write a book. He did. It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing that he wrote a book in 1929, and the following year it was made into a movie and won Best Picture. That is
Yeah,
absolutely. Is that a first?
I think so. It's
Book
possible. I
made,
don't
and then
really
like
follow
the
up on the
next year a
Oscars
movie
like
was
that, but
made. Yeah.
yeah. But
Uh,
yeah, it's such a because they were in the midst of getting into World War II when all this stuff was going down.
yeah.
So, and other thing I think is funny is that France was a powerhouse of an army back in World War One, and the
Yeah.
reverse happened.
Yeah.
It's like Germany is like, "A word? Oh, you gonna do that? Okay, cool. We just go wait. We'll
Right.
see about next time."
The weird thing about France, and you're right, they were a powerhouse.
Mhm.
And they were the first ones to introduce tanks, right? And
Yeah,
so during the Second World War, France had the same equipment they had basically in a First World War. So
Germany upgraded at a
yes,
level
while
like
Germany, America, the Russians, everyone was
everybody
upgrading.
upgraded. Yeah.
France was like still like, had these bulky tanks that were not fast and couldn't maneuver like
Hmm.
really well. And they just got smashed, dude. I mean, they had no
Yeah.
idea about blitzkrieg, just like military
Yeah.
people, planes, tanks, and then like, like foot soldiers, it was over. The cool thing about this show here, this movie here, All
Hmm.
Quiet on the Western Front. And again, this was this has been required reading in a lot of schools, like high schools, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just the interesting. It tells like it tells the story of like this is real. These are the realities of war. You know,
Yes.
and young people are like facing the reality of war. So I
Hmm.
think that I was listening to a podcast and the guy said, this book here should
Hmm.
be, or at least a movie should be released every generation, just so every generation can know that, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
The
War
realities
sucks.
of war is serious. So, you really got to think
Hmm.
about that. It's war. People are going to die.
Yeah,
Um,
because a lot of war movies is kind of like a glamorous take on it, and it's like, the good guys are gonna win, everything's gonna be okay. Like, not necessarily.
mm,
Sometimes war is gritty, and it's not. Like, you forget about the bodies, the lives that were lost. Like, just when they were doing in this movie, when they ran over the no man's land, you could just see guys just falling left, right. Like,
oh my goodness,
that's
dude.
whole generations lost of humans just right there in the battlefield.
Right.
And like, we when we talk about war or whatever, it's just like it's not a big deal. Like I like Top Gun Maverick, but like it was like everything's nice, it's gonna work out.
It's
Don't
it's a
worry, because
Tom Cruise
it
movie,
was America.
right.
Yeah, everything's awesome.
Exactly.
But like,
you know.
watching this movie, like it brings you back down to earth about what this stuff was like. Another movie that I really like is Fury. It's a tank movie,
Mm,
and I think is who's in it? I can't remember who's in it. Brad Pitt is the star of the movie,
okay, okay.
and
I think I
it
saw that. Mhm.
is raw as hell from the perspective of being in the tanks and what that stuff was really like, especially when you're outgunned and outmanned and you got a rinkety tank just going rolling over, and the Germans got
You're
all these
you're
other tanks.
You're in a death
Yeah,
trap in a tank,
yeah,
basically. Like back in
basically.
the day. Back in the day you were, it's just like, wow,
Yeah,
this is like,
but
again, you're in
I
a death trap. It's
I
crazy.
like movies that are telling you this is what it was really like.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like a Rambo on top of the tank just shooting everybody down. Like it was raw as hell. Everybody dies, and it wasn't worth it in the first place. And I like stuff like that. Like I know it's nihilistic to say, but like I like when I see something about war. Like you have to tell war what war's really like because it can't be glamorized.
No, it can't. This movie was shot like splendidly, dude. I mean, I don't know
Yeah,
if I like this year alone, I don't know if I've
mhm.
seen a movie shot so well thus
Yeah, it
far,
was interesting. The camera angles and everything was really interesting.
I mean,
The first shot was like this
mhm,
panning shot that that pans up wherever like it's on a crane or whatever they did. I don't know how they did
yeah,
it, but it the second I saw that, I was like, okay, all right, this is gonna be a
yeah,
good movie. Like,
exactly.
you can just tell, you can just
This
vibe it out. Like, oh, it's gonna be a
Yeah.
good movie.
This joint,
They
like
care.
they said 95% of this movie was shot in camera, on a camera. I mean,
Hmm.
there was small, I saw a small CGI, but then
Hmm.
everything else was shot on location. It was shot in
Yeah, just
Prague.
general.
Yeah, huh?
But this is why the movie looks so good.
Yeah.
Is the fact that they were actually there.
Yeah.
Like for stuff like that, when you do old time movies like 100 years ago, Europe still looks the exact same. They got some Teslas and some whatever electric cars somewhere, but like generally Europe looks the exact same as they did back then. So
Yeah.
it's super easy to do a movie like that. But yeah,
And
I like the fact that it was all 100%. Well,
excuse me.
not mostly in camera. They kept the CGI to a minimum,
Mhm.
and it just felt better. It
It
looks better. You feel the
dude,
realism. Like when you're in
it's
the cold in the snow, you feel cold.
it's like just go off topic just a little bit because it is related.
Hmm.
It's like when you're DJing. We come from vinyl, right?
Hmm.
So here we are
Yeah,
DJing in the digital world. It's cool. You have a lot of tools, you have a lot of
yeah.
technology. But
It's not the
sometimes I
same
want to
though.
pick up vinyl and play vinyl on two turntables and a DJ
Hmm.
mixer, not a controller, right?
Yeah.
And so I think with this movie here, it's just like, well, we're going to give you this here because this is what we're thinking about. And we
Hmm.
think it's going to be awesome. One, two, I also read and listened to a podcast. They were basically saying that this
Hmm.
movie didn't have a huge budget, dude.
It feels like it did though.
It and so when you think about that, right? That this
Yeah.
movie shot so well did not have a
Hmm.
huge budget. And this is what the guy was saying. He was like, these the director, the showrunner, they were super
Hmm.
strategic with their budget. You say this all the
Hmm.
time that the battle is coming in the last episode,
Yeah.
which is corny, it's lazy, and it's
It's
whack,
all the
right?
money's
It's a
going into the last
scam. It's a
episode.
scam. What these
Hmm.
guys did, they strategically used their low budget to make this movie and made the whole joint sick, right? If you think
Yeah.
about The Expanse, something was popping off in every episode.
Every episode.
The budget was spent correctly. If you talk about
Yeah.
Kenobi, just
Hmm.
the first episode and the last
Chat.
episode. That's it. Everything else was
Garbage.
walking and talking, right? I love
You
a
know what?
film like this.
I think it goes back to I was talking to my brother about this because he's the
Mhm.
producer too, and he like we had just so many tools available to us today. Music doesn't sound as good because you can do anything.
Yeah.
You want to strip a sample, take vocals out. You can do anything you want. But like
Mhm.
back in the day, they had to do it live, and it just felt better because of it.
Yeah.
You lose that warmth and the realism by just doing everything digital and fake. Like it's just not the same.
It's
And
not
I
the
think
same, dude.
this is a huge problem for movies right now. Is that everything's shot digital, everything's shot. We're gonna fix it in post. We'll put some CGI here. Throw a couple soldiers behind you. Yada yada yada. It doesn't feel the same, and you can tell. Like it has no soul. I think
Yeah.
that's the best way to describe it.
It doesn't feel the same. It doesn't sound the same. It doesn't look the same. I mean,
Hmm.
obviously, I mean, with these new programs in terms of
Yeah,
the
you can do
DJ space,
anything.
you can
You
just
can do
make a track
anything.
and the software will mix the track down for you.
Yeah, literally.
They throw it up on Spotify, dude. It's like, hey, I have music for sale, you know? So it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
really interesting. This movie
Mhm.
also, it looks a little bit like Black Crab. It looks,
Mhm.
just the looks, you know, the cinematography, the grayscale, like both of them, like the
Yeah.
film color was basically like a grayscale with a hint of blue, right?
Mhm.
And I'm like,
I
oh man, this is dope right
It's the
here.
shoot on location, man. You can't beat
Yeah.
that. I don't care who you are. I don't care how good digital artist you are, how good your CGI is. You cannot beat filming on location with the
You,
sunrise coming down and real
yeah.
snow. You can't beat that.
No, you can't. You can't beat Mother Nature. You just can't.
Yeah, it feels better, it looks better, it adds to the story. Like that location is part of the story. And it makes you feel something more so than, oh, these guys just walking on the moon. Okay, great. Like
Yeah.
you can't walk on the moon, so like it's like, all right, it's digital. But like I don't know what it is. I cannot describe it, but there is something about shooting on film with the real thing, like
Yeah.
you're really there.
Hmm.
It just adds to the story that just you cannot compete with, and because everything's digital now and everything's super available and you can fix it in post, storytelling is losing because of it.
Yeah.
Like just that aspect of it, it's not as good. Like I
Right.
watch old movies like from the 50s and 60s, whatever, when they're making war movies. It just feels better, man. It
Yeah,
just
it does.
does.
I mean, you know,
It just feels better.
they were would you compare this, is this so you have some great war movies. You have Saving
Mhm.
Private Ryan, you have 1917, you have Full Metal Jacket, which was dope.
Mhm.
Full
That's a
Metal
good
Jacket,
movie. That is a
you know.
good movie.
And then everything else, you know. I mean, if you want to throw
Mhm.
Rambo movies in there, you can, but you know, I don't know if they were like, I guess they were
Yeah.
military movies, you know. But this is a
Mhm.
military movie, and this is a really good military movie, dude. Some things
Mhm.
that really stuck out to me were how the characters were developed, right? Just
Yeah.
all, there was not one character in this movie that I did not like. Even the a-hole
Yeah.
general, you know, who sent them back to the front lines because
That
he
was
needed to
messed up.
win. He needed to, like, you know, sign a peace accord as the
Yeah.
Germans were going on an offensive, you
Yeah,
know. So
he
it's
he
just
wanted
like,
the W to look like,
right,
yeah, we didn't back out, we weren't
right,
punks, but
exactly.
he
So
extended the war because of that.
he extended the war. They stopped it at 11 a.m. though, for real. You know, what do you
Yeah,
think
yeah, they're
about
like, all right, everybody stop shooting, everybody, we're done.
the main character, Paul Bummer, right? What do you
Yeah.
think about him, his character?
Dude, it was so sad what happened to everybody around him. Like that
Yeah,
was so sad. And especially when we got to the end, when those guys are trying to get the eggs,
yeah, the chicken and eggs.
I was like, yo, he's gonna go home. He's gonna make it. He's gonna, feel like he's almost there. You can get out of there. Like, no.
Dude,
Oh man.
they already said the war
Testing
is
fate.
over. People are drinking. People are having fun. It's like, you want to, now that you know the war is over, dude, I'm not going into any danger.
Yeah, you
I'm
just
hanging
fool
out. My
around and get
shoe,
some eggs, man.
my boots are off. I'm drinking. I'm eating sausages, you know, eating bread, all that
Mhm.
stuff. These fools went back into danger knowing that the war is over. You don't have to face French troops. And they went
I
back where this guy was just there, like with a gun.
this is a lesson about testing fate.
Yeah.
Like there's a point in time where you just gotta be like, okay, we did enough. All right, let's just take it easy here. Let's relax. Drink my beer, eat my winter schnitzel. Let's just relax. We're done. It's all good. These guys went back over to the fart after he
the
shot at them when he got the goose.
the
Where is it?
first
Goose or
time,
duck,
right?
whatever.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the
Hmm.
first time. These guys were running for their lives and he got away. The son, man. That look on the kid's face when he shot him, I was like, damn, man.
Hmm.
But like also from their perspective, they're watching the Germans come to their country and steal their land and shoot up the place or whatever.
Yeah.
Like they'll
Hmm.
be hot too, man. Everyone forgets that. Like you're like, oh, the farmer's gonna be all right. Nah, man,
Right.
farmer's not okay.
And so you have this little kid who shot this German soldier, and
Hmm.
then 22 years later, 23 years later, he
Hmm.
will be in the Second World War with all of this knowledge in his head that he hated the Germans. So now you
Yeah,
have all these kids coming up hating Germans, and then when the Second World War starts, they're all in. You know,
of
so this stuff
course.
like just
Yeah.
breeds all over the place. You know,
Hmm.
um, You're talking about the guy who went there. His name was Cat, and then you had Paul and Cat went there. The characters
Yeah,
are pretty
yeah.
cool, right? I mean, again, there wasn't
Mhm.
anything I did not like about any character in this joint.
I I liked well the what's the guy Brule? I forgot what his name was. He was trying to negotiate the peace accord. So
Let me see here.
I forgot what his
Mhm.
name is. I know the actor is Daniel Brule or something like that.
Oh yeah,
I know
Mathis
that.
Mathis Esberger.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like you could just see the frustrating, like he like that's the dude that actually cares.
Yeah,
And you can tell like the generals and the politicians in the country do not care.
no,
They can
they
care
don't.
less what happens. These guys are just cannon fodder. They don't care about them. And it takes somebody who's seeing that stuff to be like, we got to stop this at any cost. Like they were like, we're gonna take the L here, and we're just gonna be done with this because like we
Done.
need to save our men. Because they were
Yeah,
talking about like how many generations were gonna be lost and all the families and everything like that. Like it was brutal. This
yeah.
is one of the most brutal wars in history.
Dude,
And
for 20
yeah.
years, Germany was completely destroyed. Their economy
Hmm.
was destroyed. They were saying like bread was worth 5 marks. By the time the First World War was over, bread was
Hmm.
1 million marks. People were
That's
like walking around
crazy.
with like wheelbarrows with money just to buy bread. Come on, you know?
That is crazy, man.
Yeah. So,
That is
you know,
absolutely crazy.
it's kind of
Yeah, it's
sad that,
hurt.
you know, yeah, yeah. So again, the characters were dope, you know. And let me tell you
Hmm.
some things I really like about this flick. The cinematography
Hmm.
was off the chain. Forget about it.
Yeah.
Forget about it, right? Production design, forget about it, right?
Hmm.
On
And you got to
point.
think about the trenches. They had to build all that stuff.
Dude,
Everybody's
on
in there
location, not
on
green screen,
location.
not in the volume or the vault, whatever that joint is called that Discovery has
Hmm.
or Disney has. You know, it was
Yeah,
on
yeah.
location, just like Black Crab. Set
Hmm.
design was sick. Costume design, they were on point with the costumes.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah, you
spoke
got.
about the color. You know,
I
awesome.
like when you watch movies and it feels like it's a world that people are living in. Like
Yeah,
it feels like a actual. This is. It feels like this was there. This happened. More like a documentary than a movie. That's the
yeah,
thing I found fascinating about it. But
yeah.
you're right. Cinematography, everything was good, and
This
the
here,
set
yeah.
design with the production was great.
Forget
And
about it, man.
you felt
You
like
know,
you were in the trenches with them.
they storyboarded this joint for like a really long time before they agreed
Mm,
on like what to move forward with. Smart.
mm,
That's very
yeah.
smart. Don't just like say,
Mm.
okay, you have $130 million from
Just get to
Hollywood.
work. Just get
Let's
out
just do
there.
anything, right? You know, think about what you're doing. Think about the historical value of what you may be
Mhm,
producing. You know, like again, this is a very historic book. This book
mhm,
here, just like Foundation, this book
mhm.
here is the foundation of war movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's basically what it is. You know, I mean,
Mhm.
everything was like loosely based on this
Yeah,
book.
from modern war movies,
Right.
they've taken a lot from this book and,
Yeah.
just what it's like to be there.
Yeah, this is man, this is it's no way. I mean, again, the movie is basically about the realities of war. Basically.
Yeah.
That's what it
It
is.
is de-glamorizing the war because,
Right,
everyone's
exactly.
like, "The war is awesome." Like, "No, it's not. It is
Right, you
not."
know, and
You
also
don't wanna
how
be in
these
war.
like, you know, how, you know, basically our young men and women are always on the front lines when it comes to war, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just like you have the army who's in America, you have the army who's always on the front line. The Marines are like the mop up crew. They come in after the
Mhm,
army Swiss cheese them, then they come in and
mhm.
like, you know, just mop everything up with their
Yeah,
big
Marines are
heavy
like the
weaponry.
scalpel.
Right,
They're like the
uh-huh.
scalpel, though.
Exactly. So it's just like, hey, you know, so but yeah, this is wow. This movie was completely fascinating to me. I love this
Mhm.
movie 100%. This
It
movie
it's
is
it's a heavy recommend for sure.
it's a heavy recommend. It's also a heavy movie to watch too, you know.
Oh yeah,
So
I I felt like just sadness watching this movie for like
yeah.
the soldiers and all the people that die. Like the guy, he's like, he had his wife who wrote him a letter and he couldn't even
Mhm.
read it. And I'm like, damn, man, like this is real. This is what these dudes are going through. It definitely, I always say like this is something that you got to watch,
Yeah.
especially because we're trying to get us in WWE3 right now. So
It's
yeah,
already
we got.
happening, dude.
Yeah, I know.
Forget
I
about it.
know.
Come on. It's like it started.
I know. What I'm
You
saying,
know,
like everyone's like, rah, rah, rah. We can take him. Like, you should watch this movie first.
yeah. Really, because it's fascinating, and it's so true to what's happening in the world today.
Mm,
You know,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Because war hasn't changed. War is
no,
still the exact same thing. It's run by idiot politicians
yep,
and bloodthirsty generals,
nope,
and
yep.
the people at the bottom are all cannon fodder, and they don't care. You're just a number on a chalkboard.
That's
That's
it, man.
war. That is
That's
war.
war, dude. You know, the politicians are never going to be at the front line, and
Hmm.
they just want to like maintain power, you know, in the status quo.
Yeah,
So
they make decisions all the time, and they don't even know what the consequences are going to be.
right,
They just
yeah,
like
they don't care,
it'll be
man. It's
fine.
it's
Throw these guys
exactly.
back in the meat grinder again. Don't worry about it. I know we signed a peace treaty, but throw them back in there. What the hell?
I would
Like,
love to
oh,
know
that
how
was
much this.
wild.
I would love to know how much this movie costs, though. I gotta dig and do some deep dive, and I want to see how much this
Well,
costs
because it was
because
this a Netflix movie or were they gonna release it in theaters? Like, what did they buy
this
it?
movie ran. I think this movie ran at the Toronto Film Festival,
Yeah, but like,
which is
was it a Netflix thing originally? Did they funded it or was it
this
supposed
is a
to go to
Netflix
theaters?
original, yes.
Oh,
But I
okay,
think they
okay. So,
picked it up. You know, I think they picked it up after watching it at like a film festival.
oh,
I
okay,
had
yeah,
no
that makes
idea
sense.
that I had no
That makes
idea
sense.
the Toronto Film Festival was huge, man.
Oh,
This is
it's
like
big. It's
this is
big. It's really big.
I mean, if you're on the film festival circuit, you
Hmm.
can't be on a festival circuit without going to Toronto. You can't.
Yeah, yeah, it's like Sundance, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty big. Yeah, for sure.
So, what um, what did you think about this movie? What's your rating on this movie?
Oh, I give this movie a 9. It was a little long though. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm not gonna lie, it was a bit long, and there's some scenes when like that guy when he's in that hole, and he stabbed that dude, and he's I was like, oh, this is going on forever.
I mean, the
There's a couple
realism
scenes in
of
there. I
it.
was like, yo, just cut it. Like, we're good. We got what happened here. We're good.
Right.
Just move on.
You know,
But like
exact
overall,
a nine, right?
yeah, oh yeah, easily a 9.
Yeah.
It was one of the best war movies I've seen
Right. You
recently.
know, and again, this is really based on the reality of war. I mean, remember the guy like stabbed himself in the neck with a fork.
Whew. Yeah,
You
because
know,
he's like, I don't want to be a cripple. I was like, I
right.
understand where you're coming from,
Right.
man.
You know, it's just like you're gonna go back to Germany in 1917 where everything is gone. You know, you have no money, nothing like that, you know. So it's
Yeah, man.
kind of
I totally
interesting, you know.
understand. I
I am
understand where
going
this
to
is
give
coming
this
from.
movie, I was like, when I saw the eights, I was like, it's no way I can give this an eight, dude. This is a
Oh no,
nine.
no, it's not
This
8.
is a
It's not 8.
nine, you know.
Hmm.
This film has been submitted as the top foreign film. So
Hmm.
it's going to be in the academies, and they were also saying that you know just in terms of just the technical aspect and the cinematography of the
Hmm.
movie, you know this movie may be in a lot of different categories, basically.
It deserves it. It was,
Yeah,
it was really good. Like,
costume
there is
design,
no
everything.
question.
Yeah,
Because like when people talk about movies, and you're like, well, it's not as good. People say, even the comments are like, holy crap, this is a great movie. Like,
yeah,
you get to
it's
see it.
it's
Just
really good,
read the
man.
IMD reviews on this thing
Yeah.
if you're just curious about how this went. It is a phenomenal movie. I think it's worth it.
Well, there you have it. Another episode of the Behind the Groove podcast. I am Basil Barrington.
I'm DJ Keo.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And until next time, peace.
All right.